I'm Ted Wilson. I taught at Skyline from 1966 in January until I left Skyline in March of 1973, one of the great times of my life. I taught history, I taught geography, I taught government, and I taught economics, and it was fun. It was a rich time in American high school history. It was a fantastic group of young people. 98% of them dedicated to education, 98% coming from pretty good homes where the economics were decent. Not luxurious, but decent. There was a lot of community, a lot of fun, great athletic achievements on the football field in particular, and a few good basketball teams. And just a great time for me. Pretty young myself. I was only 10 years older than my students. A really fun time for me to associate with you folks and your class. Well, the challenges of teaching at Skyline were there. First of all, at one point we had 3,100 kids in that school. You might recall how crowded it was, and we had like 3 assemblies or 2 assemblies, as I remember, 4 lunch periods to accommodate the numbers. Each one of us taught 225 kids. Unless we had special ed or something, that was very special, we had to teach large numbers of kids every day. It was a tough time to get to the middle. You always remember the bright kids, and you remember the ones that gave you trouble, but the ones in the middle sort of escaped you. So all of that came down as a challenge. It was kind of a drug culture then. More in the outside world than the school, but that affected, in a sense, what was going on in the school itself. It was Vietnam. There was still a lot of stuff going around on Vietnam and difficulties with that. Those were the challenges, but they were not overcomable. We overcame them, and working together, students and teachers alike, we were able to make it work. Yeah, the rewards of teaching for me were immense. It was a formative time in my life, just like for the 10-year younger high school students. I was afraid of speaking before I came to Skyline, and now I'm a motor mouth. Skyline brought that to me. For all you people out there that see me as a motor mouth, it's your fault. That's what made me a politician, I guess. I love the experience of students that really wanted a personal relationship and would come in and talk to me about their problems and their educational needs, and brought their families in on it. There was so much of that was very, very rich. I remember I had Gordon B. Hinckley's daughter. I don't know if she was in your class, but he came one time, and I said, at one of those evenings where the parents come out and find out how the kids are doing, and I said, "Hi, President Hinckley." He says, "Don't call me that, call me Gordon. I'm just Gordon tonight." So, the parents were like that. I had many prestigious parents, all of whom, said, "Hey, let's work together." So that was fun, and I think just the thrill of finding myself and being able to convey that was a very rich personal kind of back and forth thing. Teachers learn a lot more than the students, not only about the subject they teach, but about their own lives, because students are great to bounce off of, and that's really makes teaching a rich experience. I had a degree in political science, and my minor was in geography. And then a little bit later on, in the school year 68-69, I went to the University of Washington in Seattle and got a master's degree in economics. So that pretty much put me in that groove, in the social studies groove. Well, I think, the most about let's say the 66 to 73 era that I was at Skyline, which 69 was in the middle of. I miss the really esteem that American high schools had. It was a good time for American high schools. People saw it as a rich place to be very active in activities, a place to learn by community venture, a place to really study hard. The demands on study were pretty high. And I think that whole era really, the high school was sort of the epicenter of many social activities in America. Parents came together more often. And so in a way, we've lost some of that richness. The electronic world has peeled us away. The social world has somewhat pulled us away. Issues are now more contentious in a way between racial and other kinds of divides. And so, I don't know, it was just a great time to be in high school and to be in a high school. It was exciting. Remember, those halls were very noisy. One day, it was Friday, and it was Friday before a football game. Nobody is in either the teaching or learning mode. And when I was in the Army, I weighed 145 pounds when I was at Skyline. I had learned to arm wrestle from a guy that was very, very good at it. He had been a professional arm wrestler, if there is such a category. He was in the NBA of arm wrestlers. He taught me a technique of twisting the arm of my opponent and going down this way rather than taking them head on, and it changes the leverage or something. So I thought I'd take on a few football players. And I had some big kids in my class. And one by one, I demolished them. I promise you, Randy, I demolished them. But right in the middle of one of those, the door opened in the back, and it was Ernest Pisa, the principal. And he looked at me, and he went, "Mr. Wilson." I walked out into the hall. Now, Ernie Pisa had a very strict demeanor, not only over students, but over teachers. And I thought I'd be in my car driving away with my pink slip. And Ernie said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You know, we've worked all week, Mr. Pisa, on some hard subject matter. And I just thought I'd beat a few football players in arm wrestling." He said, "Did you beat them?" And I said, "I beat them." And he said, "Well, have fun." And he laughed. He forgot what he came to tell me. It was fun. And he had a pretty good sense of humor. Oh, I loved Ernie. Yeah. Ernie and I started off a little competitive with him because he's such a grumpy old guy, you know. But when you get him in his office, he wasn't. And I really enjoyed Ernest Pisa. He was a great guy. Well, Rich Arian always comes around because I knew Rich later in life, and so he's very cemented in we served on some church work up at the university at one time and together, and his wife Gloria, who I think was one of your classmates. I may be wrong about that. Mary Dixon, I think she was in your class. She was a great friend of mine. A lot of names don't come to my head because, you know, I should have brought my yearbook to pick the individuals out. When you get as old as I am, you remember faces, you remember scenes, you remember things, but the names themselves don't come back as quickly. Now I'm 70 years old, I can give out advice. And my advice is this: enjoy every period of your life. Never find yourself stopping and saying, "I wish I was older for X reason. My teenager's grown up, my children are out of school, I don't have to pay college costs anymore." Hey, enjoy every one of them, even if you have to pay college costs, because they're all very special. And as you move along, you find out that enjoying every minute is what's important about, you know, being here on this earth. So do it. That's an order.